It's representative.
Are you guys too important?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Alright, then we'll start.
Just a moment. You can try the projector first,
Yeah.
because it's the other way around. So you need to adjust your slides. Yes. There should be a piece of white paper at the bottom.
Yeah, is there?
White paper.
There's some white paper.
There's some white paper here.
One of the lights can be moved off.
Yeah.
Is this competitive?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Welcome to round one of the HSBC HKU Asia Pacific Business Case Competition 2016. My name is Diana and I will be your moderator this morning. We have our three teams ready to compete for round one, and they are from the University of British Columbia, Bangladesh University of Professionals, and Yonsei University. We are very honored to have three distinguished judges to adjudicate today. So they are Ms. Deborah H.W. Al. She is the head of Global Banking and Markets Asia Pacific Quality Assurance from HSBC. We have Mr. Andy Maynard. He is the Managing Director, Head of Asia Pacific Equity Execution Services, Global Banking and Markets, also from HSBC. And we also have Professor Albert It, the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of Langham Hospitality Investments Limited. A few ground rules for this morning. Please turn off all electronic devices as we do not wish to disturb any of the teams presenting. Also, please refrain from talking to one another during the presentations. Please note that we cannot allow anyone to come in and out of the room after a presentation has begun. Each team will be allowed a time of 20 minutes. I will be holding up placards to remind you of the time at the 17-minute mark and also the 19-minute mark, respectively. After each presentation, there will be a 15-minute Q&A session between the judges and the teams. Judges, please try to keep your questions concise and to the point, as we will be very strict with the timing. Do the teams or the judges have any questions? No? Teams that have presented can stay in the room for the remaining presentations, but the teams that have not presented may not be in the room. Without further ado, let's begin.
When I was 6 years old, I remember starting my own lemonade stand. And really what that taught me was the ideals of making a business and what being an entrepreneur really is. Now, Mr. Price and board and exec of, we really want to present to you our recommendations of how can you mobilize your workforce in the best way possible to make sure that Gravity Payments is on top. You know, we know you've experienced problems with a bit of pay inequity and a bit of pay inconsistency. But what we really want to do here today with my colleagues Ben, my name is Sam, Iona, and Susan, we are here to really present to you an opportunity for you to grow your business in a sustainable way while keeping your employees motivated and compensated well. And really, we're going to break down what we're going to go over today. And essentially, we're going to start off with breaking out the core issues that your business is currently facing. The main issue that really underlies your entire business is that there's a bit of inconsistency in how you're compensating your employees. So we realize that top management and lower management, or the lower level employees, are being compensated in different ways. So that minimum $70,000 minimum wage is causing a bit of strife and internal conflict within your organization. And really we want to boil that down into our solution for you today, which is to create a broad-based integrative incentive system, which also includes non-financial metrics and and motivation as well. To ultimately give you a long-term sustainable growth strategy in the future.
So, as Sam mentioned, we have 3 sub-issues. And the first one is that after you made your recent changes to the way you pay your employees, there's been some inconsistencies in the pay raises. And this is an issue because for some of your upper level employees, now they're doing more work, they have more responsibility because Price has other responsibilities outside of work, yet their pay hasn't been raised. And that's affecting their motivation. And now for the second issue.
Going into our second issue, in light of our recent changes to our compensation structure and taking into account our fast-growing employee base, we found that there's a lack of resources for the company. So what does that mean? That means we don't have enough cash for growth, and we have absolutely no room for unexpected costs. So the main takeaway from this issue is that our company has an unsustainable compensation structure with no room for growth.
And the third issue is that with your new structure, your costs have gone up internally, and some of your customers are concerned that their prices will go up as well. So this is an issue, short-term and long-term, because these customers are how you bring in revenue and how you operate as a business. So you have to keep them in mind. And we considered this as one of our sub-issues that we'll come back to later on.
We created a brief stakeholders analysis just to understand who is affected by the decisions of this company. So first off, we have the employees. So these don't include management staff. And we assess that they would like a sense of stability, and they would like equity in their pay wages and how they are assessed, and they would ultimately like long-term growth. And second, in management, they would like to have decisions be equitable and as well as wages be equitable, and they would also like to sustain long-term growth in the company. And for Dan Price, he would like to spend more time in company operations, and of course, he would like to have long-term growth as well. Specifically for customers, they're right now concerned about having increased costs, so they would like to have a lower cost when paying for our services, and also they would like to have a sense of trust when working with our company. For competitors, there is a pressure to imitate. So for example, if our wages increase, they are pressured to also increase their wages as well. And also, lastly, with the VC, they would like to see a high potential for growth within this company before seeking to provide a customer.
So, taking into consideration our sub-issues and what the stakeholders care about, we came up with alternatives, and these are the alternatives that we considered before coming up with our recommendation. So we split them up into 2 halves. The first half was looking at how do we pay our employees or your employees extrinsically. And we split that up into 2 options. The first option was to give them a payment structure that's fixed, starting with their salary, and then variable based on their performance. And the second option would be a flexible payment structure. So this would give employees more flexibility to figure out how they're paid. It wouldn't change the amount, but it would allow them to have a bit more flexibility. When looking at those, we based our decisions on 4 factors: the sustainability of the option we chose, the fairness of the option, the ease of implementation, and the impact on the company's reputation. So for fixed and variable, we found that it's more sustainable as the company grows, because with a flexible option, it would be difficult to really keep track of having all of the different employees' own preferences for how they're paid. So long term, we thought that made more sense. And we also thought that it would be more fair because it's more consistent, and based on how much you make, certain upper level workers would be able to maybe take advantage of the stock options in ways that lower level employees wouldn't be able to. For the second decision, it was based on how do we motivate our employees or your employees intrinsically. And we split this up into two different alternatives: job related and non-job related. For the job-related options, we looked at what can we change in your employees' day-to-day work that will make them happier with their work and more satisfied and more likely to stay at the company. And for non-job related, we looked at what can we do to encourage your employees to step out of work and maybe have the opportunity to grow their pleasure, enjoyment of being at the company outside of just the workplace itself, maybe volunteering outside as well. So for these, we looked at the same different factors, and we actually decided that a mix of both would be the way to go, and we'll get into those in our recommendations.
Right. And at this point, we want to break down the process of your firm and how it operates, right? We realize that your firm, Gravity Payments, is the intermediary between two different parties, which are small business owners, as well as the banks, chartered banks, commercial banks, and whatnot, really sustain the loans. So what we did with the recommendation is we branded and packaged all the different features and called the total salad bar. And what the salad bar really looks at is three main prongs for a recommendation. The first being an integrated compensation system. We realize that currently your firm has a stricter fixed salary payment where both your top level and your bottom level employees get paid a fixed salary. So the new minimum wage is $70,000, but what we're proposing is adding on a different component to that, which is more variable and based on performance. The second part to our recommendation is the intrinsic add-on. So this could be anything from achievement systems. It could be anything from going out and do volunteering work. So a bunch of different intrinsic motivators that will supplement the chain of compensation to really give your employees that broad-based approach towards their work and their daily operations. And finally, the third part of our recommendation is looking at methods of finance. So we realize that your firm is currently facing a cash crunch, as well as different ways to sort of look at growing the company itself. So what we decided to do was look at combining these three factors together to make it so that while you are growing your work base and mobilizing your human capital resources, at the same time you're growing in terms of funding and finding new ways to look at that growth. And the takeaway here is that this three-pronged approach will ultimately help you alleviate the inequity as well as provide you a long-run sustainable strategy towards growth, towards profitability as well. And diving straight into the first part of our recommendation, which is the compensation structure. Now, there's a lot of, interaction here, but the main issue, the main reason that we see is the need to change the structure. The current scheme is very static. There's not really much work with it done right now, and it has caused a bit of problems in terms of demotivation and lack of satisfaction. So our new structure messes in the fixed part and the variable part in terms of total reward. So three ways to really approach the situation. One, merit bonuses with stretch targets. So for example, because Gravity Payments is so centered on the customer part of things and making that relationship go forward, what we really want to do is push your employees at the forefront of the customer front. What does that mean? So the merit bonus itself is based on a lump sum increase if the employees exceed the target. So this target, the stretch target, could be 10 more clients achieved per month. It could be 5% of transactions exceeding $10,000. Any of these metrics could allow your company to monitor your employees' performance and reward them accordingly. This ties back your motivation back to the whole business performance and allows you to not only achieve better customer relations, but ensure that your employees are being compensated in an effective manner. Second, profit sharing initiatives for the long run. We realize that right now, as a startup, you don't have too much capital to expend. But in the future, you might want to consider a percentage portion of your retained earnings distributed towards your employees as a gesture of staying in the company for a while and having the great work that they're already doing. This is a long-run initiative because of the fact that this looks at retention. This looks at whether you can actually keep the long pipeline of employees that you're currently hiring towards the long run. And really what that really supplements is the last part, which is wage rate growth consistency. What we're recommending you to do is not increase wages by that lump sum anymore, but to really look at the inflation rate. And if it's 2%, 3%, we have a steady increase over the couple of years to ensure that these employees are not feeling dissatisfied or they don't feel that the whole system is inequitable in comparison to your whole system. So this total reward system in general will allow your firm to target specific sections of your business, whether it is top management, lower line employees, or your customers, to ensure that they're being compensated well for their efforts.
So diving into our intrinsic motivators, where our first recommendation we have 3 tactics up there. Job enrichment, allowing our employees to feel more responsibility and autonomy in their work life. Job rotation, allowing our employees to try out different jobs within the company. And mentorship, allowing new entry-level companies or employees to pair out with a longer standing employee to ask questions and get a better feeling of the company. And we hope that these methods will really allow our employees to develop a bigger investment into our company and stay for longer and be more motivated.
And the second part of our intrinsic motivation recommendation ties back to the main reason that you decided to switch your compensation method to have a minimum of 70K. So what this is a way to get employees out and helping, volunteering in different places of their choice, focusing on helping with income inequality. So the main reason you raised the minimum was to help with income inequality within your business and also to influence and send that message to other companies as well. And here, this is a way to do it that doesn't have as large of an impact on your own operations, but at the same time has that positive impact on income inequality. So what would happen is that your employees would have 5 days a year on their salary where they would have the opportunity to go out to the place of their choice and volunteer.
Now, taking a look at the broad business perspective, so gravity payments is a starting for sure. But what we recommend your company do is essentially look at monitoring and evaluating the success of your business in 4 different ways: financial, customer, business process, and people. What this allows you to do is set that forefront and groundwork for when you do grow in the future, or when your employees are motivated and they are sustainable, to allow your business to see what kind of things you're doing right. So on the financial side, we can look at cash burn rate, revenue compound annual growth rate, as well as venture capital fund routine. But what we want to emphasize is the financial portion is not too relevant when we look at all the other 3 quadrants. When we look at the customer is really important in this type of business. In the financial services industry, relationship building is king, and what you really need to do, or what your firm needs to do, is align what your employees are doing in terms of the service they're providing, the efficiency and speed that we're providing, with what the customers really want. And how do you really assess that? Well, you can look at conversion rates, acquisition rates, the number of transactions per month, to really give an idea of how many customers or clients you're bringing in on a per month basis, and whether your employees are doing a good job of actually providing the service that they need. And really that ties into the 2 main bottom factors, which is the business process metrics and the people metrics. So again, how do you know if your employees are actually providing that great service? Well, you look at labor productivity. So how many number of clients are you pushing out per day or per month? Transaction efficiency rate, is per transaction or per client meetup effective in terms of the timing it takes and the opportunity cost reduced. And ultimately, it goes back to that people portion of things. We know that your firm is really concentrated in making compensation equitable and making that sense of climate effective for your business moving forward. So what we want to do is monitor the turnover rate, satisfaction employee. So in terms of sending out surveys or questioning about whether they're actually enjoying their job on a qualitative basis. And finally, look at how fast rates are growing relative to internally in your company as well as the industry as well. Looking at industry wage rates and seeing if that is an effect or not.
So in the case, you briefly brought up a question of whether we should go with VC financing or outsourcing as a form of obtaining either more cash or reducing our costs. So we listed out kind of some advantages and disadvantages of both options. For venture capital financing, obviously it is a fast cash influx, and you have the opportunity to seek out advice and monitoring from the venture capitalists that you've selected. But on the downside, you do decrease your stake in the company, and also you potentially may decrease your decision-making capabilities. On the outsourcing side, it is fairly low cost. However, it is difficult to manage as it is further away distance, so there might be quality issues, consistency issues, and also issues potentially with time.
And what we want to do right now is, because we're targeting venture capitalists, we can sort of break down what the process is going to be to really get that bid forward. So again, what we really need to push to the investors or any venture capitalists is, what's the value proposition that we really want to bring out here? And the fact is, at a high level, what Gravity Payments can really push out right now is the fact that it is an innovative processing company with massive growth potential. And we can break that down into multiple pieces. Because your management team has expressed interest in challenging the status quo and changing the way that you compensate, you can bring that approach into how the rest of, or you can bring that radical way of thinking into your other operations. And this can be stressed to the venture capitalists or the investors to really boil down into the best way that this company can create business as a whole. And so the ask potential could be 15 to 20% of equity stake for now as a sufficient investment amount. The actual valuation, we realized that potential investors have actually decreased the valuation from the overall multiples amount simply because of the cash problems and compensation problems that your firm is currently facing. But we believe that with our recommendation, this worry or this concern of having a low valuation can be augmented after the fact. And ultimately, what this brings down to is telling these venture capitalists what your long-run strategy for that return on investment is, which is building capabilities within your workforce and mobilizing that to not only acquire new clients, but to maintain a steady pipeline of profits in the future. And ultimately, that includes tying the employee experience back into the customer experience.
Briefly going over our timeline, initially we would like to first start off with surveying and understanding the motivations and issues potentially with current employees and senior management, and also meeting with HR and the senior management team to discuss these changes in the compensation structures. And immediately after that, we would like to inform our employees of these changes, and all throughout the time period, which we've split up into 2 years, we like to continuously assess the impacts on not only our clients, but also our employees and management staff. And lastly, we would like to seek out venture capital financing or explore the option of doing so in the last 2 quarters of the second year.
Now going over our risks and mitigations. Our first risk is that our employees might have a lack of understanding and therefore a low adoption rate. Our mitigation is to provide sufficient training materials, either through a website or through physical copies, so that our employees know how to understand our structure. Our second risk is that we have a lack of cash. Our recommendation or mitigation is that we obtain cash funding from VC venture capitalists as needed, and we really believe that our recommendations will allow our employees to catch our increased number of customers and keep them into the long run. We also have a risk of negative press, and we will mitigate that through positive volunteerism and publicizing that.
Mr. Price, what your overall goal is right now is to achieve the excellence through adjusting your compensation structure. The way to do that might be difficult, but the fact of the matter is, what we're proposing is for your company to adopt these different ways of structuring your compensation, to adopt different ways of dealing with the customer, and at the end of the day, it's almost like creating that lemonade stand. It's about investing slowly, building up your capabilities, and maybe in the future, you can turn that lemonade stand into an empire. Thank you.
Okay, so you started the presentation with a statement saying growth is not free lunch.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Essentially, what this means is that any startup can really go through that phase of like hockey stick growth, meaning that there's exponential gains the more you go up in the initial phase of your startup. What we're saying right now is the fact that you are facing this misalignment between your compensation and your workers' perceptions, needs, and feelings. And what that really means for your firm is even though startups grow really quickly and the growth rates and return on investment has great potential there, we're saying that the only way to achieve this growth is to deal with the internal employees and the way they operate first, and then push out to your customers, push out to your financial metrics, and have a healthy approach there. So it's not free.
So when you talk about satisfaction versus motivations for the employees,
Yes.
so I know that you guys mentioned about outsourcing that it can reduce costs, but it also raise a number of risks like quality and consistency. But how about because we are actually having these the cost cutting, lack of resources things there. Outsourcing can be a very good initiative for center of excellence. We talk about lack of understanding, we can provide training. We can also establish another center of excellence in an outsource license. So at that point, how you convince employees that we can bring them up to the next level by only training, because employee, the mindset, we can control their mindset. So how you convince and make sure that those employees are convincible that we provide them training, they can be trained to the next level and be satisfied and motivated for the current job, even though we won't say that to HR.
Right. So I think it's about looking at training as a whole first, but then seeing that there's a next level to it, which is the empowerment stage. So give the employees, maybe work with the top management or work with the clients on specific projects that give them the more the autonomy, the mastery, the purpose. So combining training, which is a hard skill, with the soft skills in terms of allowing them to develop and grow throughout the organization. Because we know that your firm right now, in terms of the organizational structure, it has mainly 3 different levels, which is you, Mr. Christ, on top, and you have top management as well as your bottom line employees. What we're saying is that when your company continues to grow and grow and grow, that organizational structure is going to expand and go up. Meaning that employees who will stay there from the very beginning will have that knowledge and understanding of what's happening first, apply the training, and then look at empowerment to really grow themselves up and provide that same mentality and training towards the newer employees' mindset.
You talk about looking at the cost of venture capital financing.
Yes.
And have you evaluated that against other sources? For example, bank financing. What are the criteria that you look at to make a determination which one would be more beneficial to the company?
Sure. So we did only consider in the slides venture capital financing and outsourcing as being the case, but there's many other alternatives. For example, family friends, angel financing, and local banks. But we recommended that we go through VC financing just because it does have a lower impact than potentially seeking out most banks, and also with seeking out angels and friends because of the fact that Mr. Price did decrease a lot of his spendings and more to his house. We assumed that he had no other financial means of funding the company.
Okay, so I'm Mr. Price. I'm proving a minimum wage in an effort to provide a gap between the equality of wages, but really I'm trying to increase our business and grow my company, right? Extra publicity and the increased number of clients that I have. So I've got my minimum price in, right? It's costing money, and now I've got cash flow issue. And your recommendations are to add more cost by adding bonus schemes, by putting volunteers, network teams, so I'm paying for less productivity. And I'm going to go and source that extra cost for a long-term growth by venture capital, who's already devalued my company because of the moves I've already made. And you're not going to do that financing until year 2 based on the slide. Do you think that's a sustainable recommendation?
Yeah, so
That's my current point.
with our recommendation, it did not include to keep the minimum raise lapse
So
with
you're going to drop, you want me to cancel my minimum?
we won't be cutting it, but we won't be raising so we won't be adding to it with inflation. So that's where in the future the cost savings
So my short to medium term costing issue is still going to be maintained till I get my venture capital funding with half the valuation of my company because of the move I made.
Right. So in that sense, let's look at it as a profitability standpoint. Right? We've examined the cost a bit, but given that recommendation is aiming to also improve the quality of the revenue streams.
Right.
Your customers are dissatisfied with changing this structure of fixed pay. So with this system, and hopefully your workers provide a better service and better quality engagement with your customer, then you're actually going to acquire more and more customers, which will increase the revenue part and offset the cost increases, which is our goal.
You're not thinking prudent to maybe source capital funding earlier?
Right, so we definitely have considered that. The main issue right now is the fact that if we do go concurrently with both capital sourcing and internal sort of fixtures, then we're sort of spreading our risk into 2 different areas and not really devoting our efforts to improving one fully and then moving to the second part of the regulation.
We also took into consideration that in the short and medium term, as you're mentioning, with the changes you've made, it'll be temporary, but you've gotten a lot of extra attention and revenues that won't be sustainable long term, but it should be able to help you get through this initial stage.
But that's not kicking into the later, and now I've got added in setup costs as well, right?
So yeah, so those setup costs right now they're covered, they're helped by these extra revenues that you're getting in from this extra media attention that you've made through that move. Because
following up this question,
Yeah.
have you thought about if the plan that you engaged to do didn't work out, customers didn't come in, you have the increased costs, that might potentially make it more difficult to get venture capital or bank financing. Have you thought about that?
For sure. So one way to actually address the situation would be in the case that, maybe that's the worst case scenario where customers are not coming in despite us having the changes. But what we want to emphasize, or potential mitigation to that, would potentially be forming minor strategic partnerships or alliances with different other firms. It could be clearinghouses. It could be other types of financial institutions. What this will do is, not only does the institution benefit from our brand or the way we operate, but we sort of benefit from them as their client base, their other types of cash flow that we can get in order to really solidify positioning in the competitive industry that's already low margin to begin with.
I have an angry brother.
Yes.
Not me yet.
What are we going to do? You didn't mention it. So, what do we do?
Yeah, so with what's going on with your angry brother, we viewed that as even less of a sub-issue than the three major issues we lined up. We definitely think that's something worth considering, but we focused on what we thought were the major issues. With your brother, that's definitely something to watch out on, because right now it's in early stages too. He's considering it, he hasn't fully gone ahead with it. If that becomes a bigger issue later on, it would definitely be worth looking into in more detail.
Would you advise him to buy now?
At this stage, no, because it's early. If it gets more serious, then I would look into buying him or finding another way to.
Or should I finance his stock via venture capital investment?
At this point, I think that it would make more sense for you to wait a little bit, and then it really depends on the situation. But it seems as though potentially buying him out, if it becomes serious, before it becomes too serious, but not at this stage.
But his brother is angry, so from a risk perspective, how do you have reputational risk, as you mentioned, you also have operational risk and the other risk. So how do you consider to monitor him when you use the word monitor? So what sort of measures that you want to monitor?
Well, one good way to monitor him is, as an angry brother, he'll be a vocal brother. So part of the monitoring will be done by him in his communication. And also in these early stages, if he's not clear with what he's doing or how angry he is, I'd definitely recommend keeping tabs up, and maybe just, he's your brother, I'm assuming you talk once in a while, maybe at family dinners, maybe not at family, no. You could maybe just read how he's doing from those exchanges with your brother, and then make the decision based on that.
How would you determine what are the unsuitable employees as you grow your company and you have this new system of payment? Yes. How do you rule out those unsuitable employees? Especially you are giving everybody the same increase per year based on inflation.
Yeah, so we outlined sort of the performance management metrics that we use to measure and benchmark against these employees. So we'll have set minimum targets like attaining a set number of clients per month, or different quotas to make sure that whoever we're actually hiring allows your firm to grow in the best way possible, right? We've experienced massive sort of pipeline of resumes coming in and so what we want to do right now is focus, okay, changing compensation for sure in the short term, and then slowly throughout the 2-year or 3-year process, monitor based on these targets and stretch goals that these targets, that these employees can set with management in order to really allow them to grow themselves and be aware of where their skills are playing in relative to your business's performance.
How about back office staff which doesn't have any customer contact? How do you prepare?
I guess that would be more difficult in the sense that they don't have a specific tangible output to really bring to the table. But the fact of the matter is, with our initiatives in terms of intrinsic rewards, like working in teams, job enrichment, in that kind of way, what ends up happening is that there could be, employee internal satisfaction surveys or performance evaluations internally, and this will be, could be a 360-degree appraisal where each of the different employees from different departments would rate each other. Management would rate them, customers would rate the service that these are providing, and this will provide you a qualitative, holistic perspective on the performance of each individual employee, regardless of whether it's situated, whether they're back end, front end, whatever. It's all about having a holistic approach of looking at the performance benchmarks of each of your firm.
You ruled out equity options or equity issuance to staff members as a measure of performance as a moment. Why did you decide not to go down that direction?
Definitely an interesting option because of the fact that as a startup right now, the equity and number of shares you can provide options are not going to be too substantial. You might have like an exercise price of 5 cents per share for something like that. So given that it's not really too much of another addition as opposed to like the current wages they're getting, employees might not find that too much value, and especially because at this point, employee interactions and the perceptions are very sensitive. So giving them a minor increase in terms of stock options, which may end up benefiting from the long run, is going to be mitigated by the fact that they can easily turn over in the short run and not care about any of those stock options right now.
This gentleman asked about increased cost. And you are going to ask the employees to spend 5 days voluntary work with pay. And that's another 2 or 3% increase for a growth company. Can you afford to do that?
So with your initial move to raise the minimum wage, or the minimum income, that's already and knowingly, at least in the short term, affecting your costs. But your main goal, or one of your main goals, doing that had to do with income inequality. And as you stated, it really was morally required because you realized that it was the right thing to do. So this is an option that is also sort of pushing towards your goal of helping income inequality that won't affect you internally as much, so it won't have as much of a long-term impact on your employees' motivation, especially on the upper levels, because both ways it'll cost money, but this way upper level management won't be unmotivated or unhappy because they aren't making any more money, yet they have more responsibility.
If I could add on to that, we also believe that doing something like that will send a signal out to the public, to our competitors, to our clients, to our customers, to our employees, that we truly believe that this is the right thing to do, as we have stated, and that we're taking steps to make sure that we can achieve this in the long run.
Thank you guys for your questions and thank you for the presentation. We will now take a very short 5-minute break and proceed with the second team's presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.